Hello, welcome to part two with Sarah the Pivoter. We dive back into our interview and she goes over a couple things that she went through the first time and also makes them relevant now and how she can use her techniques, what she does, how she learned everything, and how she can implement it into your life. So please enjoy the second part of this series. All right, Sarah, welcome. Thank you for showing up on the interview here. I appreciate you showing up and telling us a little bit about yourself and your business. And I'd just like to jump right into it. And I'd like to know what you do and where you came from and how you got into what you're doing now.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me here today as a guest on your podcast. It's really exciting to collaborate with other like-minded individuals who are really looking to make an impact in the world. So thank you for having me here. So what I do, I'm a career transition coach, and I help people that are already successful by the traditional metrics pivot powerfully into the next chapter of their life without the overwhelm of change. And so I do that using some real core foundational strategies that I've applied not only in my own life, but in my clients' lives. That's really rooted in neuroscience, psychology, and really tiny habits. So Atomic Habits is one of my favorite reads. And it's really about breaking those big steps down into the bite-sized pieces. So instead of a huge meal that makes you feel really tired afterwards, it's the snacks that keep you going.
Okay, very cool. So how did you get into this? Because as we've had a couple talks before, just giving my audience preface that we've had talks, but her journey is actually really fascinating, and she applied all this stuff to herself first. It's not like she'd made the transition and figured things out, but let's hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, you can see I'm wearing my NASA shirt today, and my first two words were for Star and Airplane. I have been obsessed with the sky since I was very little, and I always dreamt big. I always thought about the big possibilities, and very much like Alice in Wonderland, people would say it's impossible, and I would just be so tenacious, and I'd be dead set to prove them wrong. So I started this career in aviation. Went to university and studied aviation business. I thought, if I don't like aviation someday, or let's just say I don't want to be up in the air, because at that time I thought maybe I'd be a pilot, I have a business degree to fall back on. And someone pointed out very aptly that I was pivoting before I was pivoting. I was preparing for pivots in that planning. And it really just culminated in this kind of chance encounter with a company after I graduated, where I worked for them. They had jets in Asia. It was a private aviation firm, and they were managing these aircraft. And I said yes. I did a minor in Asian studies. I learned about the culture. I learned Mandarin, and I was ready to go on an adventure. So I did that. I was in Asia for 12 years. And throughout my entire career within aviation, the 15 years that I was there, most 12 to 13 years, most of that included some sort of training component, some sort of coaching element. And I very quickly would create my own programs, because that industry is run very lean and mean, as they like to say. And so the focus was not really on the staff or the employees, it was on the VIP customer. And so I had to really find a way to keep the team motivated, especially in a multicultural environment. We had a very dynamic, fast-paced, changing industry. So it was very much think on your feet, react, be very quick to respond. And how could I get them to do that with a little bit more conscious and intention, rather than, oh my God, the house is burning down, what do I do next? And so through my own journey of learning, I'm fascinated by growth mindset, development, and then transferring this to my team, I found that I had a lot of joy in that. And so I started taking that into the schools, running seminars and workshops. And then when 2020 took place, our business was really decimated. And I had my third unintentional career pivot at that time due to COVID. And so I thought, what do I really love to do? I know what I don't like anymore, but what do I want to do? And I put my focus onto that. And that's how Pivot Point was born.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, so I find that I kind of have this skill too, is being able to absorb a certain amount of information and translate it into something else, maybe a little more easy to digest. So it sounds like that's how your course was created, and you've been doing that for a long time now. So
Yeah.
would you mind giving us a little insight on what you have created and how it's designed to help people? So maybe like some of the benefits that people would see?
Yeah, absolutely. So what you said was very well put. And I like to think of myself as the bridge between where people want to be and where they are now. And very often people are speaking the same language, right? When we're talking with others, very often we're saying the same thing, just in different ways. We have different perspectives. And so I'm really big on challenging the stories that we hold and shifting the perspective, really pivoting that mindset into an arena that you may not have considered before. And so in order to do that and to facilitate that, I have a group program. And this allows a couple of things. One, it allows you to get that perspective that you may not otherwise gain. I'm in several different coaching programs at the moment, and that group atmosphere, there are other people there that are asking questions that I would never think of asking, simply because it's not on my radar, right? It's not something it's not the way my brain works. It's not how I think, but yet that's exactly something I need to know to help me, right? It's a piece of the puzzle in the overall strategy, and it's just a blind spot for me. So by being in that group environment, I'm exposed to people who think differently, which allows me to expand the mind, stretch my beliefs a little bit, and see what feels good. Oh, I never considered that before. It also builds empathy, because I can now think to myself, oh, my subordinate at work acts this way. My partner acts this way. This is how my father behaves. I get it now. I see their perspective. And it allows us to change our stories around existing relationships. And then it also allows you to be the Sherpa, if you will. So when you are then in this program and someone else joins in a little bit after you, they're getting to witness the results in action, and you're getting a chance to teach. And we all know that teaching is one of the quickest and, I don't know, what word do I want to use? Most sustainable ways to sink it into our brains for long-term memory, that we will adopt something, right? Because we're now taking what we've learned and we're applying it to someone else. So we're acting as that Sherpa, that guide, and that's cementing that belief and that learning even deeper for ourselves. So the program is a fast action 90-day program, and you can join at any time. Again, the reason for this is that multi-layered level of learning. And over the course of the 90 days, what we really do is we focus on gaining three things: clarity, energy, and confidence. When we have clarity around what we want, who we are, what we need, we can be certain in our decisions. And we start to eliminate the should I, shouldn't I analysis paralysis that often takes place, especially for people who are very logical, very analytical, and like things to go in a linear fashion. We all know that success is not a straight, up arrow. It's very often a lot of squiggles, some roundabouts. Maybe you're going backwards a bit, right? But when we're backwards, we're really just being stretched like a bow and arrow so we can launch into a new direction. And this is what the success program is all about, is getting that clarity around where do you want to go? Because what you've done so far has served you. All of those strategies have made you successful, right? You've made money, you've gained prestige, you've climbed the ladder, you've built your own business. And now you're ready for something different. And you've not had the opportunity perhaps to explore that. So it's a bit daunting, right? It's a bit overwhelming. So how do we get that clarity? Once we have the clarity and we're certain of the next steps to take, this is how we can protect our energy, because we can put boundaries in place. We can learn how to love saying the word no, just like a 2-year-old. It can become our favorite word again. And it allows us to learn what we say no to and what we say yes to, with a big capital F in front of the yes, like, hell yeah, I'm going to do this. But when we don't know what we want, or we're not sure, then, you might come to me and say, hey, Sarah, do you want to go to the movies? And I'm like, yeah, that sounds fun. And then, my mom says, hey, do you want to have dinner on the weekend? I go, sure. That's great, right? And everything sounds good. And the next thing you know, your calendar is chock or block full. There's no space for you. There's no time or energy left for rest, rejuvenation, integration, for actually doing what you want to do, right? So while all those things were fun, you couldn't protect what you wanted to cultivate. And then you're also teaching people that those things are not important to you. So the cycle perpetuates, right? What we tolerate, we perpetuate. And this is why we're running around like a bunch of headless chickens that says we don't have time for things. But the thing is if I give you more time, what are you going to do with it? Probably just be frazzled even more. So we then do things to prevent ourselves from getting more time. So really clearing a lot of that out is how we can start to protect and grow what I call as your success garden, and implement your SAS, your semi-automatic sprinkler system, so that you can give yourself what you need, you can self-soothe, and you can learn how to communicate that effectively to those in your life, so that as you're going through these pivot points, as you're going through this change, you communicate what's valuable to you and why, so that you can set your system up for success. And then that way, no matter which direction you pivot and decide to take your career in, it feels good. And at the end of the day, when things feel good, what do? We do it again, right? We'll repeat the action, we'll repeat the behavior. So really setting ourselves up to have that feel good feeling so that we can repeat it, positively reinforce it ourselves, which means we remove ourselves from that external validation, which our entire school system is built upon, right? We get away from the, I need a gold star, I need this outcome to be exactly this way. And we start recreating what our definition of success and fulfillment is, so that we enjoy it when we actually have it. And then from there, I mean, to be honest, I don't really have to do much else, because the confidence just flows. When you're certain, you put the boundaries in place, and you're well fed and you've got your naps in, you're a happy person. And it's really easy for you to step boldly in that new direction.
Yeah. Well, that's crazy. So like what I was seeing was what we talked about earlier. When you talked about clarity, I just kept thinking about the better questions we ask, the better answers we receive. And it sounds like that's kind of what you're doing. To get clarity, you need to ask better questions. It's not, should I wear a red shirt today? It's going to be something on a deeper level. And It sounds like when you're going through this course, you're going to learn how to ask these deeper questions, and then you're going to be able to figure them out for yourself, because the answers are already within you.
Exactly. Right? No, we're all made up of same things, stardust, right?
Yeah.
You've got what I've got. So the answers are there. All I'm doing is just helping take your flashlight and shine it on that area.
Yeah. And then it sounded like the second part was about alignment. Mm-hmm. So now that we have the better question and the better answer, now you need to align yourself to what your ultimate goal is, your dream, your belief, your values, whatever. It's a tunnel. Yes. And there's a ton of doors. And it's up to you whether you want to continue down the tunnel or take any doors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes that route, you want to go straight, and other times, hey, the detour is part of the learning.
Yeah.
Right. But you get to choose this time, because you're more aware of what's going to feel good for you.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I totally wholeheartedly agree with that. That's awesome. So then after that, it's kind of like when you're aligned with what you're supposed to be aligned with, and your values and your beliefs, and you're on a path of, well, ultimately fulfillment, your authentic self just comes beaming out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so when people go through your course, you said you could join at any time, mm-hmm. right? Oh, I'm so sorry. The light is pretty powerful. A storm cloud just rolled over, and I didn't even realize, because I'm so focused in. So your program is continuously rolling, and there are people who are joining on and jumping on the bandwagon at any given time. And then the other people, someone might be 5 days from being done with the 90-day course, and you might have somebody who jumps in and they can drop some wisdom, knowledge, whatever. So yes. Is there, I know you have your 3 steps, but are there like videos or guides or workbooks or something that these people start their journey with, and then they can, slow roll into with other people's journeys? Is that kind of, am I picking that up right?
Yeah. So what we do is we have 2 live weekly calls per week. One of them is more of a teaching style, where I'm going to be running a lesson, if you will. And then it'll be very engaged. We're going to be doing live exercises. I throw music on. I said, tell people who are watching replay, just listen to music, do the exercise as if you're with us live, right? So it's a very interactive experience. I do not prescribe to the lecture style. If you want PowerPoints and someone to be like, do this, like a math formula, this is not the program for you because that's not how I roll. I don't need to read slides to you. You guys can do that on your own. So I'm very much an engaged teacher and really teach people through asking questions and having them dig deeper for themselves. What is it that they're going to take away to make important for them? Because I could tell you all damn day that this cherry on top is what you want. But if you hate cherries, why are you trying to get it, right? You can focus your attention on something else. And so we do the live calls, everything's recorded, it's in the group so that no matter when you're joining in, like if you join in right now, Brandon, when you could go watch a video from last October, right? Wow. It's all there for you to access. And so the benefit is actually for those people, they're getting to see the evolution of all the clients that have gone through the program. They're getting to see the evolution of me as well, the coaching and the dynamics and how they shift and play upon each other. And that is super important for learning how to relate with our world and with other human beings. And so I love keeping that element in there because then, as you said, someone might be 5 days from graduating, so to speak, from the program, right? And here's some new person coming in and they're like, oh my gosh, is this possible? What's happening? So this person gets to see, it's not just Coach Sarah says, like, look at this guy. Whoa, he's radiant. He is loving what he's doing. And he did the exercises and it worked for him. Okay, it can also work for me. So a little bit of their fear goes away. And then the same thing for that person, they get to look from their perspective and go, oh my gosh, that was me 90 days ago. I asked those questions. I didn't know if I could do it. And here I am with the result. Let me show you, right? And so we open up that human connection side and that paying it forward. And then we just learn from each other. I'm constantly learning from my clients, which is amazing. And then I learn from my coaches and I bring that in and I infuse it within the program because nothing in life is static. It's always dynamic. And so by demonstrating even within you mentioned I did a podcast live interview, right? And my internet went out and my guest had to kind of pivot and handle the stage on her own. Sometimes that happens when I'm doing a live session or someone comes in and they ask a question that takes us on a train of thought that was not the intended lesson, but is what everybody needs and what they want. So we go down that path, right? And so it's about learning how to look for the opportunities so that you can pull the string and you can see what's behind that, that door.